Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just dig right into it. According to Robert Garcia, Mikey Garcia has a good possibility of remaining at 147 pounds. He'd prefer Mikey Garcia to go to 140 pounds, but they believe there's a lot of opportunity in fights at 140 pounds, 47 pounds. This is according to BoxingScene.com. Now, here's a direct quote from Robert Garcia. Mikey has quite a few options. I would say move down to 140 would probably be the best option. There are fights at 147 that he could take if he decides to stay at 147. I know it's not going to be very easy to get back to 135, especially after building up so much muscle to get up to 147. So I would say 140 would probably be best for him. That would be my advice. But if he decides to stay at 147, he can compete against any of the other champions. Errol Spence was just the best. Now, I respect Robert Garcia, but I have to be honest and unbiased in my analysis. I do not believe Errol Spence Jr. is the best at 147 pounds. Yes, he did beat a guy who's moved up 2 weight divisions. He was a heavy favorite to beat Mikey Garcia, and I thought Mikey Garcia could beat him. A lot has been made over the last few days of the predictions gone wrong and things like that. And I was wrong. I didn't think that Errol Spence Jr. could outbox Mikey for 12 rounds. But a lot of the pundits, fans, groupies, and fanboys were wrong as well, because they thought Errol Spence was supposed to knock out Mikey Garcia. So neither of the two happened. So at the end of the day, not only was I wrong in my assessment and analysis of the fight, but I was also right, because I stated that I believe Mikey Garcia would go 12 rounds with Errol Spence. I also stated that Mikey Garcia would be able to handle his power, because Errol Spence Jr.'s power is slightly overrated. And all of those things came to fruition. Mikey Garcia didn't do the things that I've seen him do for 39 fights. And that's things such as make in-ring adjustments. That's things such as use his lateral movement. That's things such as using his ring IQ. Yes, Mikey Garcia's defense was pretty well, parrying shots early in the fight. But at the end of the day, Mikey Garcia didn't make any offensive adjustments to be able to let his hands go more, to be able to get in the inside. These are predictable adjustments that should have been worked out in training, because you're supposed to have a plan A, B, and C. And I didn't see anything but plan A. And I like to blame a lot of that on Robert Garcia. Yes, he's a pretty good trainer. I like Robert Garcia, but I feel like he didn't prepare Mikey Garcia for this fight. I believe Mikey Garcia prepared well physically with the snack program, but mentally he was not prepared. He seemed to have come in with one game plan, and when that game plan didn't work, he didn't know where to go. Mikey Garcia did not use lateral movement. Mikey Garcia sustained a lot of punishment in the second half of the fight, and there was no lateral movement to throw Errol Spence off balance. There was no angles being used. Mikey Garcia sat in the pocket trying to find a way in at times, and when he did get in the pocket, he was getting outboxed. And so that just was surprising to me. And I understand that Errol Spence Jr. has the physical dimensions, but you have to understand that Mikey Garcia, lack of adjustments is what hurt him and lost him this fight. Mikey Garcia couldn't make an adjustment, and it looks like his corner had no strong advice but to turn on his abilities, and I just didn't see anything from Mikey Garcia. So when I look at the welterweight division, Errol Spence Jr. did box very well. He was underrated, but this does not make him an elite boxer, beating a much smaller guy moving up from 135. And so if I look at the elite boxers at 147 pounds, I look at the pure boxers such as Keith Thurman. Whether we believe Keith Thurman can beat any of these guys or not is up for debate, but I will say that he is a proven elite boxer. Now, he almost got taken out by Josecito Lopez in his last fight. Hopefully Keith Thurman can come back and regain form. But as of right now, he's still a very good boxer, very, very talented. And I would still rank his boxing skills above Errol Spence Jr. Yes, Errol Spence outboxed Mikey Garcia, but we've never seen him outbox a pure welterweight. We've never seen that from Errol Spence. So we can only go based on what we've seen. We give Errol Spence credit for beating Mikey, but Keith Thurman is no Mikey Garcia. We also have to look at, Terrence Bud Crawford. Terrence Bud Crawford is head and shoulders over anyone in the welterweight division. Boxing wise, it's funny how people are jumping on a bandwagon of Errol Spence and ignoring the skill set of Terrence Crawford, comparing Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford because Errol Spence outboxed a much smaller guy in Mikey Garcia. That does not prove that he's a better boxer than Terrence Crawford. I find that very comical, because there's levels to boxing, there's levels to this, and the adjustments that Mikey Garcia couldn't make, Terrence Crawford will be able to. I think Mikey Garcia is still a top level fighter. I still think he's a pound for pound fighter. I still think he's He's an elite fighter, just not at 147 pounds. Mikey Garcia, if he wants to continue to be successful in his career, he must move down to 140 or 135. I think he can have success at 140. I think he can have success at 135. He may not be able to make the weight at 135, but at least at 140, there's a number of big fights. Regis Prograis, Josh Taylor, things like this. Even Teofimo Lopez may come up. Even Maurice Hooker would be a great fight. So if you look at it like this, Mikey Garcia has options. The problem herein lies is Mikey Garcia should not be fighting at welterweight, because the top guys at welterweight are going to be too much for Mikey Garcia. And for a few reasons. One, the physical dimensions are going to be a problem. And if you were outboxed by a guy who's never shown boxing ability like this before, what will you be able to do against Terrence Crawford and Keith Thurman, guys who have been proven to do this at a high level, fight after fight after fight, against other welterweights, against other bigger men? What are you going to be able to do? And the fact that your corner has not been able to make in-ring adjustments against this type of opponent, what will you be able to do against these guys? I don't see much. I think Mikey Garcia would hold up in those fights because he's shown that he's very durable, but I don't think he has the physical dimensions to compete at 147 pounds at this point, because I'm swayed by what I saw in the ring. I think Mikey Garcia is very talented. He can still have a great career, being an elite level fighter, but at 140 pounds, not 147. I believe Mikey could win a few fights at 147. He could beat Lamont Peterson. He's already beaten Sergey Lipinets. These guys have moved up. These guys are at 147. But what does those fights do for your career? I don't know if he could beat any of the champions. Yordenis Ugas has too much physical dimensions on him. Sean Porter's so strong, quick, and powerful. And then you look at, even the guys who we don't think much of still boast tremendous physical advantages over Mikey Garcia. I think it would be too much for him. I think he must go back down to 140 pounds where he can be much more successful in his career. But once again, Unbiased as always, it's the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely subscribe.